Welcome to everybody to Women in the Golf Industry, what we call our WIGI-pedia, which is our educational series, as many of you know, that our members are sharing their expertise and their knowledge. And as you know, I just want to go over a few things. That our mission in what we call affectionately WIGI is that our mission is to connect and support women in the golf industry. So I think WIGI-pedia has been a great start, and our getting to know you calls, which are every other month, are also another great way. And we are now also in the process of starting a mentorship program, hopefully. So there'll be new upcoming things. As many of you know, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kay McMahon. I am the current president of WIGI, and I'm very happy to be doing this. Today's subject is for WIGI-pedia is women's entrepreneurship, launching and maintaining a successful business. So we have four great panelists today. Again, it's women's entrepreneurship, launching and maintaining a successful business. So we're going to be going over our panelist, which features four of our entrepreneur members, and we're going to be exploring their stories, how they launched their new ventures, how they've operated and basically maintained successful businesses as women in the golf industry. We're going to be talking about some of the peaks and valleys and some of the challenges of what's really gone on. So allow me to introduce the four panelists. We'll do this in alphabetical order. I have Ashley Sierra, who is the founder and CEO of Women on Fairways, which is a lifestyle company specializing in designing and hosting women's golf trips. As many of us had to do in 2020, Ashley's career changed overnight, as did her life. But she embraced entrepreneurship and boldly, as she'll talk about it, launched her company in 2020. She's currently on a mission to be the #1 in the women's golf travel market. So we're kicking you off to a good launch. Wave your hand, Ashley, so we know who you are. There you go. Okay, Kathleen Erickson is the founder and CEO of the Short Game Place. Kathleen's up there in her Short Game Place. She has a vision to begin to start an innovative indoor entertainment venue that will be hosting an 18-hole or 9-hole par 2 indoor golf course that has real hazards, as we all know, of water and sand. They'll have alternate tee selections, changeable holes, and it'll be accessible for all golfers, which is one of the biggest things. So she's on a great venture with that. Jillian Foss is our next panelist. She's the founder and CEO of LEGS. And LEGS, it stands for Ladies Executive Golf Society, which she organizes female-friendly golf networking experiences for professionally minded female executives. But Jillian's mission is to empower women on and off the golf course. She founded it in 2018, and now LEGS, I think, has now established 8 chapters in 8 cities in the United States and is growing rapidly. Our fourth panelist, who's been on a mission for a little bit longer than these panelists, is Jane Spicer, and she's the founder and CEO of Daphne Head Covers, which she started when she was 16, just a couple of years ago, and she's turned it into a global brand. It's now a global brand, and it's in 75 countries and over 200 professional golfers' bag, including a few people that we may know, such as Tiger Woods, Ernie Els, Lydia Ko, Brittany Lincecum, and more. Our first 3 panelists are fairly new entrepreneurs. And while I would like to acknowledge and applaud Jane, which we all should applaud Jane, she is the longest running woman CEO in the golf industry. So congratulations to you. It's just an outstanding accomplishment considering where you started. And we're going to talk about everybody's visions. As I said, their peaks and valleys, the hurdles, but more often the secrets to all of your successes. So what I'd like to really do is start with Jane, if we could, because when we talked the other day, I said I was going to start the other way around, but we have, I think, how you started when you were 16 and why you started, but also if you could relay the story of one of your famous head covers, if you would. So tell us a little bit how you got started, Jane.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Kay, and welcome everybody. I'm just honored to be a part of this panel. I started my first company actually when I was 10. I asked Daphne, my mom, and the company's namesake for a sailboat. And she said, think of a business and earn it yourself. So I started making stuffed toys. She taught me how to do that and sold them up and down the street. I bought a 16-foot sailboat and discovered I liked making my own money. The toys morphed into puppets and I would sell them at street fairs. And I was getting, I had just started high school and I wanted a car. And so my mom bribed me. About the same time, a customer came to us and said, you should make these into golf club covers. So my mom said, if you make and sell enough golf club covers, I'll buy you a car. So I made some prototypes, went straight here in Phoenix to the Arizona Biltmore, gave a horrible sales pitch, sold my first head covers, earned the car, and that was 44 years ago. 44 years ago next month. So that was, the impetus was a 1973 red Volkswagen that I wanted and thought that I would just look awesome in, and earned that. And then Kay, you asked about one of my more well-known head covers. In 1997, and you might be familiar with this head cover.
Does it have anything to do with Tiger?
It does. It does. Yes. So Tiger has carried this on his bag his entire career, and we've been very, very fortunate to have a lovely relationship there. And Kay, did you want me to relay the early story about that?
Yeah. When you and I were talking the other day, I think we've all had these things that happen in our business that just happens at the right moment in time. I'm in the right place or almost in the wrong place, that you almost missed an opportunity. So since we're talking about opportunities, explain the opportunity and how you almost missed it.
Well, there's been some nice things written about my brilliance in marketing on capturing Tiger, but there's no brilliance. It was all luck. So when I first started, the qualification to work for me was that you had a pulse. I was just grateful that somebody would come and work. And a very nice woman working for me, didn't golf, didn't know anything about the golf world. And there was a phone call, and we had been selling more and more Tigers. We'd heard about this young golfer who was winning. And I heard her say, well, I don't care if her name is Mrs. Woods. We don't have any Tigers and you can't have any. And I thought, oh my God, it's Mrs. Woods. So I ran across, and at that point, the front building was a house. The file cabinets were in a bathtub. The fax machine was in the kitchen, and there was a warehouse in the back, and the phone was on the wall on a cord, and I pulled it out of her hands, the phone was bonking on the floor, and I picked it up. No, hi. We have Tigers. Do you want them? I can help you. And Mrs. Woods was calling from Big Canyon Country Club in Newport Beach. And of course I got her the Tigers. And since then, and if I could move this around, I would show you, I always kept 6 Tigers in my drawer, and I have them also locked in my office so that never, ever happens again, even though that was a long, long time ago, to make sure that anytime she calls, that nobody will ever say, I don't care if it is Mrs. Woods, and no, you can't have any Tigers.
The fax machine's in the tub. We don't have fax machines anymore. And the phone's on the wall.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we've come a long way. So, and feel any panelists can jump in anytime they want, but that's a tough act to follow. So Ashley, do you want to talk a little bit about how you got started or why you had to get started?
Yes, I don't have a story like that, but I do have a story because I think I am one of those millions of people that, because of COVID, we had to change our life overnight. And I was living in Los Angeles, and I was working for Los Angeles tourism and promoting the destination. And that's my entire career, was working for destinations. I worked for Scottsdale and Palm Springs. So promoting everything that a leisure visitor would do to come to the destination. And then COVID happened. And it's actually a little surreal because I realized that March 27th of 2020, which is this week, was when I lost my job. So I had to put everything in storage, and I have no idea what I'm going to do with my rest of my life. Nobody in tourism and hospitality was hiring. Everybody was losing their jobs. We all know what happened. And fast forward 3 years later, I ended up launching my business the end of 2020. So when I moved back to Minnesota, which is where I grew up, my family's here, I just, like many of us, just played a lot of golf. I didn't have anything else to do. And I started playing with these ladies up here in Minnesota that were like, once we can start traveling, you know, could you maybe start planning our golf trips for us? And it was just like this aha moment that I was like, wow, you know what? Like, I've been doing this already I was more B2B. I was already doing this with my clients who were travel companies. And this idea kind of formulated, and I realized that there was only a handful of women-run travel companies out there focused on women's golf trips. There's so many tour operators out there and golf companies out there, and they do an amazing job. But they've really geared a lot of their marketing and just their sales efforts to the buddies golf trip or to the guys golf trip. And I think women have a completely different way when it comes to travel and the way we want to travel. And so, I just developed this business, and the last 2 years has been great. I talk about ups, peaks and valleys. I've had it all. But I'm finally at a point where I think Women on Fairways is being acknowledged as a golf and lifestyle travel company out there for women, and the itineraries are done by women. So that's how my story is.
Let me jump over to Kathleen. Go. She's shaking her head about a lot of things. So there's a lot of commonalities, I think, here.
All of it. Yes, I am. So I'm kind of a problem solver. So throughout my retail and trade career, I kept working myself out of a job because I'd create something that was better for the company or whatnot. And then of course they didn't need me anymore. So I started doing that for myself. I'd open up a company, we'd need it for a while, and then technology would grow. We wouldn't need it anymore. So I worked myself out of another job. So golf happened to be such a passion for my husband and I got really tired of not being able to play on my days off because it was raining, or for some reason the golf course was closed or something happened. So I decided I had to solve this problem, which was put the golf course indoors. Well, back in 1992, all you had was AstroTurf, and you can't play golf on AstroTurf. It would just be, I think people would throw things at me if I even decided to try it. So right about 2019, the turf had gotten so wonderfully created that you could actually play real golf off of it. In fact, they were using the turf at the Masters at the driving range. So I thought, okay, so if the professionals were using it, let's see how we can make that happen. And then the buildings were so big and so expensive, we had to charge $300 to get people to play indoor golf. And so they finally came down with some really good architectural designs to where, $35, you can play golf indoors. Hey, that's great. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I quit my job and said, okay, I'm going to go out and start and get some investors, and we're going to make this happen. I got one investor, and then COVID hit, and then everybody went indoors. No, we don't want to play indoors. We can't play indoors. COVID's hit. So that kind of made a big setback. So we're back on track now. Everybody's like, oh, it's okay to go indoors now. You can play indoors. And so now it's a thing again. So that's kind of been the ups and downs. But right now we're rolling in the right direction. And I really believe that we're hoping to break ground sometime this year or next year the latest. So it's very exciting.
Right. I think it's also your concept of the par two. So you've already made that into a game, but we'll get into that in a bit. Yeah. All right, Ms. Jillian, how did you get started and why? And just tell us your story.
I think it's funny that we have Jane on here because I remember one Christmas I asked my dad, I really wanted this elk head cover, and I got this elk head cover. I named it Roberto, and I took Roberto everywhere with me. So I took it to concerts. I took it it's so cool to be on this panel with you, and the fact just to hear your story, my story. Kay knows well that I'm a self-proclaimed professional troublemaker, part-time opportunist, and I think my story started back when I was in sales. Well, first started off caddying at TPC Sawgrass, and in 2017, I was the first female caddy, which I felt was very weird. It seems that we should have progressed so much further. And every woman I would meet, they're like, I really want to learn how to golf. And I'm like, well, you don't want to learn from your husband or your partner, and women want just kind of a different experience of golf. And then got into sales where I was working with large companies and CEOs, and I would just get so frustrated that these CEOs were all men, that there were no female CEOs of these larger companies, and I wanted to work with females. And my background's research. I know there's not a direct correlation between golf and success, but they are associated. So I kind of felt like, all right, women need their own group where they can build the networking and the social capital, and we can support each other, because that's just what we're all about. We're about sharing and giving, and to see it kind of naturally progress has been amazing. I think growing up, maybe this is what I wanted to do in some sense. I wanted to be PR for the PGA or a fashion designer, and then you kind of get distracted by your own self-doubt, thinking I'm not good enough, or I can't do this. And so then you kind of take your path to accommodate what you think other people will think is successful. So I was guilty of doing that for probably 10 years. And then last year, around this time, I had a post-COVID existential crisis and said, all right, I'm going to say it out to the world, because if I say it out to the world, then I have to make it happen. I'm going to quit my job, do legs full time, and down the road, I want to, create a golf apparel brand, because I don't know about if you guys feel this way, but golf clothes kind of suck for women. But first of all, my passion was community. And so if you guys have never heard of desire mapping, I was in a room of 40 other women business owners, where rather than, in a fixed way looking at your goals, you say, in next year, I want to accomplish this. You focus on the characteristics and qualities that you want to exude that make you happy. So whether it's being passionate or connected or creative, and I found that in my insurance job, I wasn't doing that. And so really focused on what can I do to be more passionate and more connected and more creative, and basically jumped off a cliff almost a year ago. And I'm just so thrilled. I'm just so blessed, because I think it's sometimes it takes time to find your passion, and really for everything to come together. And it just felt that the universe said yes, and I said yes, and we're working out, the minor details, and I make a lot of mistakes, but at least, I know that we're making an impact, and I'm just having fun.
It's kind of interesting. You said you jumped off the cliff. I don't think so. I think the snowboarder hit you and you broke your collarbone. So
well, hypothetically, yeah, right now I'm no golf for 2 to 4 more weeks, just had a collarbone surgery. So me and Kay have been on calls where I'm like, I can't put on a shirt right now, so you're going to have to deal with me in a robe on my laptop. So we've bonded, but
well, it was the cliff. It was a snowboarder that hit you. So anyways, it's whatever. All right. So I want to kind of open this up to the panel, and we're going to talk about some hurdles. What do you think is for entrepreneurs today, and especially women in the golf industry? What do you think is one of your biggest hurdles that you maybe overcame or still have to overcome, or a challenge of some sort? Go ahead, Ashley.
I think as a new I've been doing this for, 2 solid years now, but I think I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to certain things. And I think because it's your brand, it's your business, that the challenges are, you kind of think about like, what are other people are going to think when you put it out there, or you're just wearing too many hats, and you're your own PR person, you're your own marketing person, you're accounting. And I think, women just in general put on so many different hats. And I think especially being an entrepreneur, you're trying to do everything for everybody. I know that's been a big challenge for myself. But I think when I look at it, the challenges that I'm trying to overcome with women is that you are busy. You are doing so many things from your family life to your business life. So here's a company like Women on Fairways that can take the planning and logistics of your trip and your golf trip off of your plate, where you can just show up and have fun. And so that's really what I'm trying to take some of my challenges are, and then, help other women know that it's okay for someone else to plan something for you. It's okay for someone else to do something for you. So
yeah, I think it's kind of interesting, because when we got on here a little earlier before we started, you said your business coach, I think.
Mhm.
Told you how many things are you taking on?
I have 27 projects I'm working on right now. And he said to narrow it down to about 7. And I was like, that might not work right now, but yeah.
Jillian.
I think, and probably so many of you can appreciate this. It's honestly just battling the stereotypes that we get as golfers, as women, and I'll tell you an amazing story of how WIGI has been beneficial. I think the biggest challenge we have is finding partner courses that see the value in getting more women into golf, and I've talked with courses that do not get it. And so we're not going to work with them. And then I've worked with courses, Shannon's on the call, Orange Tree Golf Club, they get it full-heartedly, and they're a really great partner where we want them to be successful through our success. So I think just rewriting the script for women in the future and having those candid conversations of, hey, that is sexist and maybe, that's not acceptable. That way women in the future are seen in a different light and there's more equality when they step onto the golf course.
Have you had opportunity to stop somebody and say this is culturally or sexist or?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, we saw like Boca, for example. They were working with a course and the starter was very inappropriate. And so we told them like, hey, I know like they wanted to make it right and they invited us back, but we're like, we're not going to work with you because women can sense, without any words being said, whether they feel welcome or they don't. And so that's just a recipe for disaster. If we have all the other ingredients, but the club doesn't make us feel welcome, we can't go forward. So yeah, I mean, it's getting easier and easier the more you do it and the more the environment is changing where those conversations are more acceptable and you're setting the boundaries. But there's been times in the past where I haven't done it perfect and I just let it slide, just because I didn't want to make it uncomfortable. So I think it's just figuring out like how big of an because some people won't change, I think like if you look at like our grandparents, they probably may have had a different environment where sometimes their tones are a little racist and you're like, grandma, you can't say that. But at that, like, is it worth your time to change your 90-year-old grandma or so really focusing on the right conversations that do make a difference.
No, I think that's a very, very good point. I mean, grandma might change. We're not sure. We'll see. Kathleen, thoughts?
So I would agree with everything you guys have said so far, really right up there. My thing that I run into is money. Now, if I were going to do clothing, there's grants out there for women entrepreneurs. And if I were going to do this, there's grants out there for women entrepreneurs. But I'm doing a venue. I'm doing a sports venue. I'm doing something that women don't generally do. So even women funding organizations don't fund it. Now, if I had $1 million in my bank account and I've been working for a year and we're showing a profit, I can have all the money I want. So I think for me, the biggest problem has been I can't connect with the people that needs to be on my platform so that we can show them, what we're doing, etc. The take back on that has been Elizabeth Holmes. Do you know who Elizabeth Holmes is? So this woman went out and said, in this little vial, I can do all of your blood work and it isn't going to cost you a lot of money and we can do all this, that, and the other thing and just give me $25 billion and man, I'm going to make everybody rich. And so she had this great personality. She's had this great vision. Everybody believed in her. Well, I'm following in her footsteps. So I can have a great vision and I can have a great attitude and everybody can see that I've got this passion for this. But then there's this Elizabeth Holmes person in the background who just is going to prison for fraud. And they're thinking, is this person real? Right? So there's always that lingering. So I think that's been something that I've been having a really hard time trying to overcome, is that stereotype that women really shouldn't be looking for this kind of money.
That's kind of an interesting perspective, though. I mean, I wouldn't have gone there necessarily, but when you're looking for quite a bit of money, and yeah, and they have to put a lot of faith and trust in you, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jane, you've never had a hurdle, I'm sure, in 44 years.
Yeah, well, I think that, and ladies, I mean this in the most positive way, not as an obstacle, but being an entrepreneur is just a series of hurdles. And you just have to want to jump over them more than anybody else. And it's good. And then you just feel better and stronger every time you do. But I understand from the point of view of gosh, I've got to start this. This is crazy. How do I do it? And having 27 things on my list. I'm a little better. I might have 25, but we probably all should have 7. And I've encountered the different things with banks. I mean, imagine walking in and saying, hey, I make head covers. This is what I want to do with my life. Can I have some money? And the first banks I went to, I rode to on my 10-speed. So I would have to hide my bike behind the garbage can and stand back there until I stopped sweating, because I wanted to look professional. I didn't think professional people look sweaty. And then I would go in and talk to the bank, and they would say, go home and ask your parents. And I was like, well, no, I need your money. I don't need theirs. So I think the conversations have changed a lot, but I also think we have a long way to go. And I can't remember which one of you, Jillian, I think it was you at we all do need to support each other. And whether you're reaching back and pulling somebody up or paving the way, I think it's constantly remembering that we can help each other. And it could be as simple as a introduction to a banker going, take this person seriously. Or it could be, you know what, I'm going to come with you and hold your hand because these guys are going to really appear scary, but realize that in essence, they all work for you, because if it wasn't for small business people, none of them would be around. So how do we help each other through each hurdle, whether we've jumped it, fallen over it, or we need somebody to help throw us over it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting you say that, because I went to open up a small deposit some money in a small checking account, whatever. We were going through, I had to bring in my address or whatever. And then finally the young man comes to me and he said, well, why don't you have your husband come in so we have more credentials? Now that was only 3 years ago. So I'm not so sure how fast it's changing. Obviously I left. Maybe not very politely, but I did leave. But Eloise is laughing at me. Okay, so I was gonna, Jane, you kind of alluded to it too. What does an entrepreneur really mean, and especially to women? What does that word really mean?
Well, I've discovered that lately it's a thing to be, and after having been one for 44 years, I've only just learned how to spell it. So it's, but an entrepreneur right now means anybody who's not doing anything and is thinking about doing something. That seems to be societally what people are saying. And the rest of you on the panel, I hope that definition kind of grinds with you, because it's grinds against you, because that's not the way it is, as we know. An entrepreneur is seeing challenges, overcoming them every day, being willing to honor the struggle every day, knowing that it's part of it. And it's making your own way. So at the end of the day, you did it. The money that you made was yours. The people that you employed that were happy was because of you. So it's being willing to pave your own way day in, day out, and no matter what, and get up and do it again.
You talked about, coming over the hurdles or doing this together. Has anybody in any of your lives, have you felt that they really helped influence or helped to get over the hurdle? And I kind of want to talk about the hurdles, is that I think it's really more of a high jump as women in the golf industry. We're doing more high jumps. The high hurdles maybe is more like it than just the regular hurdles. But maybe talk about influencers that you've either influenced or people that have influenced you.
I'll start if I may.
Yes, you can, of course.
So Daphne, the namesake of my company, my mom was my biggest influencer. And when I would go out and get sales, she'd cheer wildly. And I mean wildly to the point where I'd call her from a payphone. So, a long time ago, and go, hey, I got a bunch of sales. And the Volkswagen that I got was loud. So she knew when I was coming home. And I'd come down the street and she'd be waving, and she'd wave with one hand, she'd wave with the other hand, she'd start to wave with her leg. And more than once I watched my mom fall completely over in the front yard because she was cheering for me so much, just so happy when I came in. And that was such a good thing to work for, and be like, wow, that glee and that support. And then on the other side, if I came back and said I haven't sold anything, she'd say, well, so why are you bothered? When you woke up this morning, you hadn't sold anything either. And I was like, but Mom, I went out all day and I haven't sold anything. She goes, you're in the same place you were when you woke up. So just go and do it different today. It's not a failure. You just didn't do anything, you just went and got experiences. So, it was, if I came back with no sales, it wasn't a failure because I'd woken up with none. So those different things were huge as far as my biggest influencer. And, I obviously still carry her words with me today and try to spread them to anybody around that it applies to.
You had the biggest cheerleader. I think that's absolutely, everyone in the panel, you can see everyone shaking their head like, wow, that's really something. And it's interesting that you say there was no failures. There's really no failures. There's just, let's go do it again. Let's do it differently, or let's just knock on another couple doors. So, but I think the biggest thing is well, your mother falling over. She was probably cheering with two legs and two hands at the same time.
Probably.
And I think that we all need to take that as a great lesson. Anyone else with influencers? Jillian, you were going to say something earlier. Mm-hmm.
Donna Orender, who's actually a member of WIGI, I remember she did a speech and she's like, if you're going to go on a trip from Jacksonville to San Francisco and you want this trip to be the best trip ever, you want to make sure that you only hit green lights, you're never going to go. So perfection is the opposite of go. So kind of like, and sometimes I err on the side of maybe more impulsive and just do it and go for it. Or maybe some influence from Nike. But I think that's what entrepreneurship is just taking that first step and knowing it's not going to be perfect, but then you can look at it and say, for example, you do fail. You're still, you're at least chasing your passion and learning the experience, and your job is something you're spending your most time doing. So why not do something you love? And you can always go back to doing what you need to. But I think with enough gumption and will, you're essentially just investing in yourself, or like, okay, another company's investing in me and they're going to pay me this much a month, but you're saying, I'm going to put stock on myself. And I think if I'm going to work as hard as I do, I might as well work for myself and make it happen and just hope and pray for the best.
Then it's good to bring Donna up because she's got a lot of good things. And I like the trip to San Francisco. There's all green lights and there's a few stop signs and along the way. So yeah, it's good. Kathleen.
So I'll have to say it's my dad. My dad was a serial entrepreneur. I took after his footsteps. But the reason I did is because I told him, Dad, I'm just not satisfied at work. I work for a bunch of idiots. And he says, what do you mean? I said, well, the customers are not being taken care of. The printer knows he cannot get this job done, but he tells me to go ahead and say, yes, we can do it. But I'm the one who has to tell him tomorrow, I'm sorry, we didn't get it done. He said, well, the only way you can actually make the difference in the world is to be the boss. If you're the boss and you're an entrepreneur, the buck stops with you, which means customer service is going to be whatever you make it. So if you want 100% customer satisfaction with your clients and your people, you have to be the boss, because people just, they just don't have that in them to really care enough about taking care of their clients and stuff. So that was kind of the driving force for me to be an entrepreneur and be my own boss and have my own businesses throughout the years. So that was my dad.
Yeah, we all have our parents are pretty strong influencers. Come to think of it, you might bring it right back home, right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And then we reach out. Ashley, Miss Minnesota.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think everyone has that influence, and I think my family has supported me. I mean, to go from like no job, came back to Minnesota where I thought I was only going to be here for a few months. And now, it's been 3 years. I mean, if it wasn't for my family and the support, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. So I'm so grateful for that. But then I also feel like the experiences that you have, you don't realize with your former jobs or with your just what you did, how big those are to where you are today. And when I kind of take a step back and I look at like my big jobs that I had and my bosses that I had, the meetings that we had, the conversations that they pushed me to think outside the box, or they, pushed you to do something that you probably wouldn't have done or take a risk. I mean, all of that leads to like where I am now. And I feel like all these experiences that I've had, it's just pushing me to be better in my own job and having my own, career and my path and building this company. So I think they don't even realize what they did. And like, I hear their voices in my head, like when I'm working on a project or putting something together, I just hear them. And so I think, just the experiences that you have in your past and how it has helped you to where you are today is huge.
Yeah, it's kind of the sum total of all of our experiences gets to the bottom line right here. Okay, we've talked about a few of the hurdles, and we don't have a lot of, I'm sure this conversation can go on forever, but I want to talk about, what do you think are the best rewards? What are you getting? Jane's already smiling. What are you really getting out of Jane's? How's your 44 years been so far, Jane?
It's been a wild and wonderful ride. And I think it changes what you get out of it. At first I worked for a sailboat, and then a car. And then I had a dollar amount in mind, and I went and interviewed some friends whose dads looked really successful and asked them how much they made. And they were nice. They actually told me. Now I realize it was rather an impertinent question. And I worked towards that dollar amount because it seemed like they really had things together. And then once I made that amount, everything changed. It was like, why do I work so hard? What am I doing? And then it became, and those were all great rewards along the way, so you could check it off and do it. But then it became, what can I become? Who can I become? What does version 2.0 of Jane look like, or version 3.0? And that was really interesting to me. I have on my wall here, it says, don't fear failure, fear being in the exact same place next year as you are today. And I always think about that and think, okay, where was I last year? Where am I going this year? For me, the reward now is the growth. What can I do? Who can I help? What have I become? You watching what version I am of me, and can I grow into something that I'm that's bigger, bolder, kinder, braver.
You talked about the financial growth, but you're not talking about that. You're talking about the growth of yourself as a person, and that's the biggest reward that you got to be. It's kind of interesting because we think of growth as a different financial growth in business, and it's not really.
Well, if you don't grow as a person, you're not going to grow financially. And even if you have spikes and you have times, as entrepreneurs, we have times of success, whether it's well thought out or it's luck. But if you haven't grown personally, you can't handle that financially. There's just no way. So you've got to grow into what it is that you can accept that the universe brings you. So the financial growth it really means nothing if you're not the person that's ready to accept it and then do good things with it.
That's one to take to the bank on that one.
Can I jump in on that?
Yes, you certainly can.
Because I'm just looking, I have this journal on my desk that it's like one line a day. So it's a 5-year journal. So every year, so for example, on Monday, I sold out one of my golf trips, and that was like a huge win for me. And so when I went back and on March 27th, started to write that's when I looked at what March 27th I did last year and the year before, all the way up to March 27th, 2020 was when I got the phone call that I lost my job. So it was so now I get to see every year the little wins that I've done. And, even written in when I had to cancel a trip last year. And I thought, oh my God, I'm failing. I've just canceled a trip. I didn't get enough women to go on it. But all of those, failures have turned into something that motivates you. And so every year I can kind of watch like how I'm growing. And so it's exactly what Jane said. It's not necessarily sometimes about the dollar signs as much as like, wow, look at what you've done over the past year on this day. So yeah.
That's pretty awesome. We keep talking about failures, but I think we're going to get rid of the word failure from Jane, just saying there's little bumps in the road. It's like when I play golf, I plan to hit the fairway, hit the green, and then when I really go play, I hit the tree and I hit the sand trap, and then I get it in the water, and then finally I get it in the hole. I do get it there, but sometimes it's not how I planned it. So, yes, Kathleen, any thoughts?
I like to see things, problems being solved. And I think the one that makes the most, or means the most to me is the people, the inaccessibility of the golf courses. And so it's been a real passion of mine. My husband passed away in 2018. And so I have a disability, and it actually has gotten worse. So I really cannot play golf anymore. And I used to love golf, and I still love golf, but I want to see these people who have an ability to play, but they don't have the same ability as everybody else. So mine's more of an altruistic type of a passion to see people get to play who've never been able to or allowed to play. And I say not that they haven't been allowed to play, it's just that I know when I was like driving around the golf cart with that big orange flag on the back of my cart that said I could get close to the green, but not on the green. Well, some people need to be on the green in order to, continue their game. And it's just not viable. It'll ruin the course. And that's the last thing anybody wants to do is, tear up a course. So for me to find and solve a problem that can actually make that happen for me, that's going to be a goal that I will see an achievement at that point. Once I make a lot of money, I can donate it. So I'll have that ability, all the, the people that I, like and stuff. But I think for me, really, truly, it's seeing those people who actually get to play golf with their friends and not have to think, well, did they accommodate me? Do they have this? Do they have that? And nobody will think twice about, 4 people going off playing golf. One of them's in a wheelchair. It'll be just like it's always been that way. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Oh, it's a lot of really, really good thoughts and interesting, real motivations of why you're doing what you're doing. Offer any advice to anybody that's an entrepreneur, because most of us that are really women in the golf industry, pretty much almost everybody's an entrepreneur. Even if you're working for somebody else, you're still in kind of your job is still as an entrepreneur, because if you take it as that's really your business. So any advice that you wanted, like in 10 words or less, or 20 words or less, that you could give? Wait a minute. What successes and challenges on building your teams? I think I'd want to have Jane's mother, but
it's getting clear on what you need. Like I said, I initially hired people that just had a pulse, and over the years, I've had the luxury also of being able to be choosier. So you have to decide what kind of culture you want. For me, we're a very playful company, with the head covers, and I grew up with a family with a great sense of humor, but we're also very, very hardworking. So finding people that were kind, that was hugely important, that had a great sense of humor, but didn't mistake a great sense of humor for laziness, that would come in and give 8 hours of themselves, has been a challenge. So it's over the years finding really good people that are within your culture. And some people really want to create a family culture. Some people will say, we are not a family, come in, do your time and leave. It depends on what it is that you want to create, but get clear on who you want to surround yourself with. And I'm here all the time, so I get to pick who I want. I want kind people. I want a good sense of humor. I want people that can teach me, that I can grow from. So I ask all kinds of really wacky questions in interviews to determine that. But that's the culture that I want, because I want to be happy with the people I show up with every day. So get clear on the culture you want to build.
I want to know a wacky question you'd ask.
Oh, what's your spirit animal would be one. Another,
Horse,
if you were going to be any of our head covers, what would you be and why? You know, things, they're not the normal questions that are asked, which I think we learn a lot about people when you ask something different from where are you going to be in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, spirit animal is vodka.
Oh, yeah, we share. Yeah, we share spirit animals.
And now you're getting me in more trouble, Jillian. I mean, come on.
Just kidding.
Yeah, but I share.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. Any other ideas about teams? Because that's a good question.
I've been very lucky to have amazing presidents, but it also is like kind of what Jane said, where she was working for the money, and then it became more about her legacy and how she wanted to be remembered, and reputation and culture. But I think with legs, it's and same thing with what Ashley said, how she had bosses that believed in them. And so what Jane said, you know, that people are employed and they're happy because of you, you know, so recognizing the greatness and the potential in your team, allowing them the flexibility and autonomy and creativity to kind of make it their own and their own personality, and not being too strict and micromanaging, and being collaborative, you know, where it's not a dictatorship. But how do you find the right team? I mean, I'd love for anybody else to tell me, because there's always, yes, I am hiring. Yes, I am hiring. So, but I think exactly what Jane said, culture, being clear about, you know, like, will they fit? And these are our core values and our mission. And if they believe in the mission, each president at Legs, like our whole philosophy is, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. And so every time a woman comes to an event, $2 of which goes to the nonprofit that the president is most passionate about. So whether it's the First Tee, or whether it's, you know, a children's hospital, or whatever it is, they know that they're not just getting women together to network, but even the women that show up, they know that they're contributing to charity. And it might be $2, but if you add it all up, it'll be thousands upon thousands of dollars that we're able to give.
Yeah, so you're trying to find out what their passion is too. So you're making all those connections. So it's about connections. Kathy or Ashley, any other thoughts?
Hey, if we have to be compatible to work together. And so I think the biggest piece of having that conversation with people, let somebody else do the HR part of the hiring thing, but sit down and have a conversation with them. Because if you can have a really great, honest conversation with them, and you think they're gonna, you know, fit right in with the people that you want to be with every day, then you can train them. But if you sit there and you're like, you know, I don't know that I could work with this person every day, don't put that on your staff. Don't make your staff have to deal with somebody like that just because, man, they're the best thing since sliced bread when it comes to numbers. That would be what I would recommend.
10 words or less, your parting thoughts to what somebody could do in the golf industry, your best piece of advice. 10 words or less. I could take 5, but that'd be even more challenging.
In the golf industry, or as an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur. Yes, as strictly an entrepreneur, but we're all in the golf industry. So yes, as an entrepreneur in general, because an entrepreneur is about life too. Ooh, I love it. They're all thinking.
I would probably say just put yourself out there, because I think we all have our kind of whatever happens in our mind, but you don't. The moment I've started putting myself out there and having these connections and phone conversations and Zoom calls, it's amazing how you can find something that you both are, besides golf, but there's another like collaboration and things that you wouldn't have thought of, and just having those conversations. But it also takes that effort to pick up the phone or reach out to someone that maybe you've seen on social or wherever, or admired from afar. And so it's really kind of putting yourself out there.
Step out there. Got it. Kathleen.
I would say write down your whys and write down your why nots. And if you're so passionate about your whys and your why nots are like, you know what, my whys are so much better than my why nots, then why not do it?
Good. Okay, there we go. Jillian.
Like the Zig Ziglar quote, you can have everything you want in life by, making sure I'm going to butcher this quote, but essentially making sure that everybody else gets what they want in life. I think once you step into the entrepreneurial point, you're kind of focused on yourself. And so don't allow time into your schedule for making those introductions to the banker, or just continuing to support other people. And then I think it will come back. So give it back.
Give back. Jane.
Remember, you're here to help.
She did 5 words or less. She was here.
At the advantage, the other women were braver and they went first so I could count. Well done, lady.
That's me picking on. Well, I know we could continue going on, and I just want to a few reminders for people that we are always on a membership campaign. So if you know somebody in the industry, click the button on the front page, have them join. We're also starting corporate memberships. So if you're 2 or more than an industry, there'll be corporate memberships coming out. We're always looking for people for on the committee. So with that, though, I want to thank everyone very much, especially our panel members. And so you can give yourself off mute now and give them a big applause. Or just, and remember, getting to know your calls will be coming up. So the events are always on our website. So again, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you to our panel. You guys were great thoughts today. Excellent, absolutely excellent. See you next time.